Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I caught a little conversation going on in the comments, and it's something that I thought I would address for you guys, mainly because this is kind of a common misconception there regarding hormone levels in teenagers. You always see people say things like, oh, 14, 15, 16-year-olds produce so much testosterone that they're going to make steroid-like gains and things like that. And that's really absolute nonsense. And when you look at the ranges of hormone production based on age, and I'm going to link a chart here for you guys from the Mayo Clinic on this. It shows various age ranges starting down to preteen up into 30s for both males and females. It shows you guys the ranges. What you're going to notice is that actually 13 and 14-year-olds don't even have the testosterone levels usually of men in their 20s, even though they've reached puberty. Usually around 15 to 16, they actually reach the range of 20-year-olds, and somewhere in that 16 to 18 range, their testosterone levels peak, and they're on average about 15 to 20% higher than those same individuals will be in their 20s. The thing that you need to remember though is that that is not a tremendous amount. What you're going to find, yeah, it's showing you a range sometimes of 300 up to 1200 at the peak. That is much, much lower than anyone who uses even modest amounts of testosterone. Because remember guys, I've linked studies for you guys showing muscle growth rates on people using synthetic stuff in healthy young men. And even though that range is 300 to 1200, the average is going to be like 500 to 600 at the most. That's where 90 to 95% of men in those age ranges, even in that peak age range of 16 to 18, are going to sit. Very few of them are going to be over 600. In the modest studies that I put up for you guys, if you look at the nanograms per deciliter, and I'm going to link one of those down below for you guys, they're averaging 2400. That is 4 times what the average 17-year-old is going to have. And they're seeing fantastic results. Yeah, that's what we saw was the amazing results when you start going to 4 times what a 17-year-old produces. But you know what? That's modest. The 2400 is actually fairly low. You look at guys like Rich Piana, Boston Lloyd, some of these guys, if you were to pull their blood levels are going to be somewhere in the 10 to 20,000 range, easily. Some of them might actually go over 20,000 nanograms per deciliters. Fine, yes, testosterone does matter, but small changes in testosterone levels very rarely produce actual muscle growth. And there's other factors going on. Sure, a 20% boost might be enough to give them a little better gains, but how many 16 and 17-year-olds do you see who are just really jacked, barring those who might be on some sort of synthetic androgens, who are actually training natural? They're fairly rare because there's other factors going on there. There's psychological factors, there's other growth factors happening. First of all, their body is expending energy and actually growing still. They're not having to worry about just gaining muscle like men are in their 20s or 30s who are lifting weights. Their bones, their organs, even the length of their muscles are still changing because their bodies are still growing. Men don't finish growing till around age 20 to 21 in terms of total height and things. Their body is actually expending a lot of those resources continuing to develop and grow. So it is not going to devote those full resources towards gaining muscle hypertrophy and getting bigger. It has other things to worry about besides that in terms of actually the actual growth process. So you've got that to consider. Then number 2, you have to consider the psychological factors. Younger men, particularly men in their teens, tend to do things on whims more. They tend to do things impulsively more. They tend to do things with more emotion thrown into it rather than thinking things through carefully. So what you see is that these young men don't always know their bodies well. They don't know how to regulate a training system. So unless someone has written them out a system like some of the free programs I have out, they will tend to run and do things on a whim. They will probably not regulate their training volumes appropriately. Therefore, they're going to get hurt easier. Therefore, they're going to overreach easier, and they're not going to know how to undulate their training and their recovery cycles and everything. Because again, they don't know their bodies, and they tend to be impulsive and not make long-term plans, plan stuff out 6 months or a year ahead of time. Because again, the age, most of us are like that at that age. It's not knocking teenagers. Every single one of us older men who are different than that, we were all teenagers. It's very rare that you're going to find a teenager in that age range who is going to think those things through carefully and follow a well thought out training program. And they are there. There are exceptions to the rule, but those are not the norm. 90% or more of them are simply not going to do that. And the ones that do, yes, they're going to get better results. They're going to have lower injury rates, but they're the exception. And if some of you guys who are teenagers who are listening to this, you might be one of those guys and you're saying, but I do that. Yeah, but that's not typical. You're actually different than the norm with what you're doing. Most of your friends are not going to be doing the same thing. So there's a lot of other factors going on there besides just testosterone. Yes, they might have a mild testosterone advantage, but the vast majority, just due to lack of life experience and lack of maturity, are going to struggle more with following through and executing a proper, well thought out training program. And therefore it is going to be more difficult for them to get results, even though they might have a slight recovery and muscle protein synthesis advantage. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.